Hi there, this is Matt Kim with IGN, and I'm here with Joseph Pipor and Tiffany Watt from the D4 team, Diablo IV, for people who may not know. Howdy.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, so very excited to be back. I believe the last BlizzCon before COVID-19 shut down the whole production was when D4 was announced, and now we're here.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. Actually, the opportunity to announce Diablo IV. So now, 4 years later, to be able to announce the expansion in front of the same crowd, a different crowd, an amazing crowd. To feel their energy has been really thrilling.
But I want to talk about the big new announcement today, which was Vessel of Hatred, the expansion tease. Now, we didn't get a whole lot of details about it up on stage other than a very cool teaser trailer. Is there anything else we can dig out here while we have you?
Absolutely. Well, we can talk a little bit about it here. We also have more to share in the campfire chat tomorrow, so be sure to check that out or check it out on the blog. But, you know, we didn't get a chance to really talk too much about the story. So at the end of the Diablo IV main campaign, we have Neorel, who is leaving with a soulstone with Mephisto trapped inside. So this is picking straight up off that tale. And what is happening with her. She's now traveled to this new region, Nahantu, and is carrying Mephisto with her. He is obviously impacting her every step of the way. You've got that super creepy, incredible voice from our Mephisto voice actor in that teaser. And so I think the opportunity to be able to explore a region that's new to Diablo IV, and this has all this lush new flora and fauna is going to be really exciting. And then, of course, as we talked about on stage, bringing a brand new Diablo IV class that's never before been seen in the Diablo universe.
Is that the sort of goal going forward with the game, to sort of expand away from just the gothic aesthetic that we know for the series from, but maybe explore different kinds of regions and territories and architecture?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously in Diablo IV, we spent a lot of time in this like kind of Eastern European Gothic world, right? And you know, it's like it's dark, it's muddy, it's grim, it's cold. You know, it's and then you get to kind of Kyrgyzstan, and you have this beautiful sun. It's bright, it's still dangerous, and being able to go down to the region of Nahantu, which we did visit in the past in Diablo II, we get to really embrace like a really different region of this Eastern continent of Sanctuary. And here we get to like, you can see there's beauty and there's color, but there's still danger and darkness, like it kind of like under every leaf. So it lets us like begin to explore these different biomes, these different environments, and kind of bring the horror of Sanctuary and the beauty of Sanctuary to these new places. And that's honestly one of the most exciting things about working on Diablo IV. You know, we set out to make a contiguous, like, you know, open world, massive, you know, action role-playing game. And we get to really like looking back at previous iterations of Diablo and seeing the path we took through various parts in the campaigns, seeing the corners of the world that we got a chance to explore. There's so much of the map we never really get to go to. And here we get to like take these like individual like little dots or like little X's or little towns or squares on a map and be able to really like allow the player to go to Merowyn, allow the player to go to these other locations they can't normally get to or haven't seen in the past. And now that we get to go to Nahantu, we get to really explore this space. And it's going to feel so distinct compared to what we've been able to explore so far. This dark jungle environment, lush, gorgeous, blood-soaked, right? Like it's all the things you want and expect from a Diablo expansion, you'll be able to find here in the jungle.
Going back a little bit to classes, one question that the audience has is still no paladin, but there seems to be a story reason for that. Is that something that we might be able to see from the expansion?
So I think when we think about classes we want to bring to Diablo IV, you know, with the base game, you know, one of the things we thought about quite a bit was, you know, what are the most iconic fantasies that players are looking to revisit, having appreciated previous Diablo games. So we have the barbarian, this like hulking warrior covered with weapons, uses weapon mastery, their proficiency with these tools of war to deal more damage and get more use out of these things. You know, we get the sorceress who has like her enchantments that get to use, like as she's casting her spells, other secondary effects firing at all times that like make her more powerful. We want the classes to feel like they've got a really strong, rich, deep fantasy that we can kind of build upon mechanically. So we also think about what are the gameplay elements that we have in our action RPG space that we haven't got a chance to explore as much, or just haven't gone as deep in on as we would like, right? So that's where things begin. What is a mechanical, exciting gameplay fantasy? Like, what's the combat like? What am I doing as part of this class? And then what is the actual fantasy of this thing? Because we don't want there to be a tremendous amount of overlap as we're going from looking from one class to another. we want to continue to build the barbarian, we want to continue to build the druid and the necromancer and the sorceress and the rogue. And to do that, they need to continue to have their own space to continue to grow and evolve and do more. So now this is what's really exciting. Looking at with this expansion, the Vessel of Hatred, being able to bring a brand new fantasy and class to the Diablo franchise. It's never been seen before. Gives us a lot of really interesting places to play. And we're really excited to see how players respond to it when they get a chance to get their hands on it.
It seems to me like when one of the guiding principles of Diablo IV is to introduce new things that players haven't seen in the previous games. How much of that is a guiding light for the development team?
The Diablo franchise has so much history and so much deep lore to pull from and such a dedicated fan base, and we are a big part of that. And I think we've famously talked that Diablo IV is a love letter to the community, and it's a game that we wanted to make, and we wanted to make it for the community, for ourselves and the community. Often we talk in game design about like 1/3 old, 1/3 adapted, 1/3 new. I'm not a game designer, clearly, but I think the opportunity to be able to build on the foundation that is that fantastic history of what Diablo is, pull from that nostalgia and bring that forward into telling new stories about Sanctuary has been really exciting. And similarly, I think when we, whether it's classes, I think Joe had just talked about, when we looked at the original lineup of classes for Diablo IV, we really did want to embrace that legacy and those core themes. But now we have the opportunity to maybe explore something new. But he also mentioned that we're revisiting the region of Nahantu. It's actually a region that you visit in Diablo II. In Act 3, when the player first arrives in Act 3, you're actually going to the docks of Curast, and that is Torrejon. We had mentioned that the new name for it is now Nahantu. It's what the locals call that region. And so to be able to return to that location and see what's happened to it in the last 72 years is really exciting. And then a little bit more in the panel tomorrow, you'll find out that the players get to return to Travancore, which is the original location that Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred, was imprisoned in Diablo 2. And when he breaks free of that prison, it's actually when the players get to fight him. So we really are building on this history. We talk about, the legacy being so important to us and really being able to honor that. So I think it's great that we have this incredibly strong foundation to build upon, and then bring to light all these new experiences with it.
I mean, I have to say, I have to imagine, I think you succeeded given how successful the launch of D4 was, how happy players seem to be. One question that players do seem to have is about the endgame and specifically. I think a lot of the maybe criticism is that it sort of feels less cohesive as the main campaign, a bit more grindy than compared to the sort of very confident and very structured main story campaign. Is this something that is being discussed internally about how to be addressed?
So in Season 2, the Season of Blood, which just released earlier this month, we made a number of changes to try to improve and add new elements of structure to the endgame experience for players to enjoy. So one of the interesting things about working on a live game is that we're never done, obviously, but also that when we're thinking about when things need to be released, we only have, they have to start usually at different times than you might expect. So in Season 1, for example, Season of the Blood, the work for that was actually begun much, much earlier this year alongside us finishing up the base game for Diablo IV. Season 2 represented the first opportunity we really had to incorporate feedback from players who played the base game at launch and some of Season 1. We'll take some of those ideas and put them into our development plans for Season 2. So in Season 2, we did a number of different things. We know that when players are playing any season of Diablo, or they're starting out, they're going to have goals for themselves. And sometimes that goal is just as simple as I want to hit level cap. I want to hit level 100. And we saw that many players were getting frustrated along the way to try to reach that goal of getting to that endgame experience. So one of the things that we did, when seeing players getting into the late 60s or early 70s and basically just hitting a really hard wall, it just takes so much extra experience to be able to progress further. What we ended up doing is actually reduce the amount of experience required across the game to reach level 100 by about 40%. And players are reaching level 100 much faster now. They're progressing through those experiences much more quickly. But that doesn't solve the endgame question. It just means it's a little bit easier for you to progress through that part of the experience. We also went through and we added a number of 5 new endgame bosses for players to engage with, that they can go and earn the summoning materials to go and go gather their friends to go fight. from doing a number of different activities in the end game once they get into World Tiers 3 and 4. And these new bosses that we've added are going to be places for players to go and kill these bosses to get specific unique items they might need for their builds. So normally, unique items drop just very rarely, but randomly for anything that you kill in Sanctuary. But now, they still can drop from other sources. But if you're looking for a specific item, you're looking for one specific thing that you need, you know exactly which boss you can go to kill in order to get that, have a chance at getting that item. And then how to get the materials you need to go get more chances to fight that boss and get that drop. So this provides a much needed, an extra bit of structure that we really need. Now, during opening ceremonies today, and we'll be talking more about this to panel tomorrow, there is also going to be a new gameplay feature added called the Abattoir of Zir. We're going to be bringing this on. It's a new seasonal event showing up at week 6 of the season. And we're running for the remainder of the season. Players in season 2, we're getting a lot of great feedback. One of the things that we're hearing is that characters are very powerful right now. It's pretty easy to kill a lot of even the most difficult creatures that we have in the game. Well, the Abattoir of Zir is this new space, this new 25-tier dungeon that players are going to be able to go into. And each of these levels has an escalating level of difficulty as they go deeper and deeper into the experience. So this is the place you go if you've already finished Tier 100 Nightmare Dungeons, if you've already killed Uber Lilith, if you've already done everything, you got your Uber unique items from Duriel, you've done everything you can do inside the season, where you got all your legendary aspects, you've got all your vampire powers, all of it. But along the way, because things are going to get so much tougher as you try to progress through those 25 tiers, you're also going to earn very quickly a brand new Paragon Glyph. Now, Paragon Glyphs, for the uninitiated, are these new items you can take and put into your Paragon board, which is like an endgame progression system for your character and customization system that's going to augment the power of your character when you go find these. This new glyph, the Tears of Blood glyph, is this new unique glyph that we're adding to the game. That's normally glyphs have 21 tiers of power you can earn through and level them up. This is 200 levels of power that you earn through, and they're very, very potent immediately. Very, very significant in terms of the power gain you get from this thing. This is going to be a tool that you're going to need to leverage in order to be able to get deeper and deeper into the experience to augment your character's survivability and, more importantly, their damage as you go deeper and deeper in. So having a really great, whether you're like a ball lightning build or like a 16 combo point rogue build, whatever crazy broken thing you've managed to put together for yourself this season, this is going to be the place to go to in order to get more power and to show off your skills.
We know Diablo IV is barely out of its first year, but
we released 5 months ago.
5 months.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Yeah.
And World of Warcraft is approaching 20, and Overwatch is, I believe, at around 7, right? But from both of their keynotes today during the opening ceremony, we saw something new that I don't think we've really seen in, actually, frankly, any sort of video game convention before, where they sort of talked about multi-steps into the future. Like World of Warcraft announced 3 expansions, and Overwatch teased 3 heroes, essentially, right? Diablo 4, will there ever get a point where y'all will be confident enough to share, multiple steps down the line in the development pipeline?
So I think that's an interesting question. I think that the way I look at this, we obviously have our internal plans and they stretch out into the future. We are a live game. We have things coming out very regularly for players. We want players to be really excited about the things that we're making. We want to surprise players, but we want them to understand that we remain committed to the experience and we're releasing regular infusions of content. Our first 6 months of the game, we've been responding to player feedback quite a bit. Season 2 added a ton of quality of life changes. We've done a lot to improve the experience. We made mounts a lot faster, reduced the XP grind to get higher up. We made a bunch of itemization changes. We've reduced the chance for we reduced gems from dropping in the game experience. We did a bunch of stuff. Making sure that there's a roadmap. I mean, that's something I think is worth thinking about.
We do have teams that are working on multiple expansions right now. Joe, as he mentioned, he's overseeing the live teams. They are working on multiple seasons. I think reminding ourselves Diablo IV is a brand new game. It hasn't even yet been full 6 months since it's come out. And, as Joe said, we're reacting immediately to a lot of the feedback coming out of the community. And I think we want to feel that Diablo IV is in its absolute best version of itself, that we can confidently, we can lower the cone of uncertainty of what our roadmap is going to be. I think the worst case scenario was if we did communicate some really incredible plans and we weren't able to actually deliver on those because we, had to pivot for whatever reason to work on other things. So I think
as we prioritize that feedback.
Yeah, feedback is incredibly important to us. We're constantly reading it from all channels. So even from, this community, it's really great that people are very open about sharing their thoughts on our game. Yeah. But yeah. I think it'd be great to get to that point. I'm excited as a fan of Overwatch and WoW to be able to see those teams be able to share that information.
Launching a live game is very challenging and always difficult, but in terms of the reception that you've been seeing in the first 6 months, how pleased is the team from just the excitement that the player fan base has been showing?
Yeah, I mean, Diablo IV was incredibly successful. It was a great launch. People have loved the story. We welcomed tons of players who've never played any Diablo game ever, to the franchise and be able to chance to see like the universe of Diablo. We were able to get tons of really valuable feedback we've been using to make the game better and better with every new patch, and we continue to remain committed to that as we go. Like every live service game that you can work on, ultimately the best expression of that is always that there's a dialogue between the player base and the developers, as we both are trying to make the game as good as humanly possible, right? And we remain really committed to that. And so that's been super gratifying. The response to season 2 alone has been fantastic. And it further galvanizes the opinions of the developers and the team that we know that these sorts of changes to make the game feel like faster and more responsive, and like make sure that the power fantasy of an action RPG is really felt by the players. Like, this is the right direction. We want to continue to hone in on this and continue to make this better and better as we go. And our expansion just build upon all of this.
Yeah. We are very excited. We were thrilled with the launch of Diablo IV. It was an incredibly smooth launch. We were getting feedback right away from the community. I think I'm just really proud of the team. We worked very, very hard to make sure that it was an incredible launch. It was the biggest launch that Blizzard has ever had. We were able to launch on all platforms simultaneously, globally, and as Joe mentioned, being able to bring in a gigantic community of new players that can play in any way that we can feasibly support them. We have cross-play, we have cross-progression. I think we've really shown that we are dedicated to that user experience, that we want people to we just want to lower the barrier of entry to jumping into Diablo IV. So, I'm excited. Obviously, getting all that feedback from such a passionate community means that people genuinely care about the game, and we want to show that we care about our community a lot. Like, we wouldn't have this game without them. And so to be a part of that dialogue as Joe was talking about has been really, really great.
Yeah, and to that end, because I can understand part of the question too is we got a lot of feedback, pointed feedback, particularly around the launch of season 1 about how the game was feeling at that time, how it felt to be playing the game and then have elements of your character or things be balanced in a way that just made the game less fun or made it feel slower and things along those lines. And we learned a lot from that period of time, particularly how we wanted to communicate changes, how we wanted to talk with the community about these sorts of things and relay our intentions. And I think that we're in a much better place in where we are in terms of season 2. And again, during that period, we did get so much of that feedback that we talked about. I know we keep saying feedback over and over again, but it's really true, right? As we hear these messages from from content creators, from forums, from social media, from video content, right? All of these things are kind of helping support the thesis we have for ourselves, but exactly what we want the game to be and to become. And the goal is not to make Diablo IV a good game. The goal of Diablo IV is to make it the best Diablo game you've played. Which has a lot of weight to it. There's a lot of requirements we have to hit, and there's a lot wrapped up in that. But that's the target for ourselves. That's what we're trying to hold ourselves accountable to.
BlizzCon is where new expansions get announced, right? But presumably being more communicative with the community that plays your game, can we expect, a lot of newsletters, community updates, that kind of stuff? Is that something that you're all focused on?
Yeah, we already have so right now the Diablo IV team has a really regular campfire chat system.
Yes. Joe is very frequently a member on the campfire chats. We have an amazing community team that is very, very active with the community as well, but we do have regular campfire chat updates as well as developer updates. Where we communicate, what the plans for the future of the game are. We are able to respond to a lot of the feedback directly, answer a lot of questions directly from the community. And because I think we have such great community managers, they're frequently able to interact with the community members on the different social media channels. Joe is a huge part in responding to the community, so I'm sure that everybody's familiar with Joe.
Well, as the assistant game director of Diablo 4's live service, so as assistant to the game director, I'm responsible for the live service. So I want to make sure that as the community is feeling something as they're playing the game, that they know that they're being heard about those things. It's not easy to just if a person has a complaint about a feature, we can't snap everyone. I think everyone really intuitively understands this, but you can't just snap your fingers and make the change, because you want to make sure that it actually, all the features that connect to it, all the things you'd have to do to like support that change, need to also be updated, tested, revised, and then pushed to other platforms. But what we want to do is make sure that we are briskly trying to respond to these sorts of things. We had players have concerns about rewards, itemization, combat, progression, endgame systems. We're dedicated to fixing not fixing necessarily, but improving and building upon a lot of things that we have. And in some places, fixing, like resistances. Made a lot of updates there.
What I think is really cool about when people from Joe's team get the opportunity to speak with the communities, they get to build upon the context to a lot of the decisions they make, because we've all played games where we don't really, we can't look behind the curtain and know what the developers' plans are or what their original intentions are. So when people reach out and talk to us about like how they're feeling, what their experiences are, it gives Joe and his team the opportunity to be like, okay, let me explain a little bit what our goals were here, and why maybe the suggestion that you are giving us may not be the correct answer. So I think that the tool of social media or any of these platforms has given us the opportunity to actually engage with the community directly. And as a player of a game myself, I think that's just a really, really cool development in game development.
Yeah, ARPGs are really cool that way. In that ARPGs are games, obviously, but sometimes they can become more than games. They can become like close to hobbies, like in and of themselves, right? And that's really, really neat, because people are able to dive really deep into these experiences and explain explicitly what they're looking for, exactly the feelings and emotions they're hoping to get out of the experience. We like that relationship. We like being able to build upon that.
Seems I've also heard that there was a big breakthrough in the cow level mystery. I don't know if you've seen that. The community seems to have uncovered something new recently.
I don't know what you're talking
I
about.
don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know.
That sounds
Did you say cow level?
Yeah, cow
sounds utterly ridiculous.
Is that a joke about cows?
I heard it was real. Did I get fake information from the producer?
I'm really sorry, everybody, but I think that this has been a miscommunication.
I heard on good grounds that there was something about a cow involved.
Are you memeing on me, sir?
Am I memeing? I don't know what memes are.
Okay.
I mean, I think I have heard that a lot of players have been out there slaying cows.
Just poor innocent cows in the countryside of Diablo?
Cows in Sanctuary. Sanctuary is not a good place to be, so.
So you're pretty into mercy kills for the cows?
Yeah. I will say, if people have picked up any items from their cow slayage campaign, they should hang on to this.
I don't know what she's saying.